The afternoon sun beat down on Interstate 40, turning the asphalt into a shimmering river of heat. Traffic moved at a steady clip 65 miles per hour, everyone except one car. A faded blue 1998 Ford F-150 pickup truck crawled along in the right lane at exactly 35 miles per hour. Cars swerved around it, honking. Frustrated drivers threw up their hands as they passed. Behind the wheel sat an old man, maybe 80, maybe older. His hands gripped the steering wheel at 10 and 2, his posture rigid but steady. He wore a simple plaid shirt and a veteran's ball cap pulled low over white hair. His eyes never left the road. 3 miles back, State Trooper Ryan Mitchell had been watching the truck on his radar. At 27, Mitchell was in his third year with the Highway Patrol. He was good at his job, thorough, by the book, and determined to meet his monthly citation quota. Slow drivers were easy targets, safe stops, no drama. He flipped on his lights. The old truck didn't react immediately. It took nearly a quarter mile before the blinker came on and the vehicle eased onto the shoulder, gravel crunching under the tires. Mitchell pulled in behind it, running the plate through his system while he waited the standard 30 seconds. The computer screen blinked once, processing. Plate MOH 047. Registered. Coleman, Frank Joseph. Active. Nothing unusual. He grabbed his citation book and stepped out. The old man was already rolling down his window, both hands visible on the wheel. Mitchell noticed that immediately. Most civilians didn't know to do that. This guy did. Afternoon, sir, Mitchell said, approaching slowly. License and registration, please. The old man nodded once. Yes, officer. His voice was gravelly, worn smooth by years. He reached carefully into the glove box, pulled out the documents, and handed them over without a word. Mitchell scanned the license. Frank Joseph Coleman. Age 81. Address local. Mr. Coleman, do you know why I pulled you over? I imagine I was going too slow, Frank said calmly. Yes, sir. You were doing 35 in a 55 zone. That's 20 miles under the limit. You are creating a hazard for other drivers. Frank nodded. I understand, officer. I apologize. Mitchell studied him. No excuses. No arguments. Most people fought back, claimed they hadn't noticed, blamed their speedometer. This man just accepted it. Still, a violation was a violation. Sir, I'm going to have to write you a citation for impeding traffic. It's a $50 fine. He pulled out his citation book and began filling it out. Frank said nothing. He just sat there, hands still on the wheel, waiting patiently. Mitchell walked back to his cruiser to finish the paperwork. He sat down, opened his laptop to lock the stop officially, and entered the plate number again. That's when everything changed. The screen didn't just display the registration. It flashed red, twice. Then a message appeared in bold letters. Priority veteran status. Medal of Honor recipient. Contact supervising officer immediately. Do not proceed without authorization. Mitchell stared at the screen, his pen frozen in midair. Medal of Honor? He blinked, reading it again. The message didn't go away. He grabbed his radio, his hand suddenly unsteady. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I need Sergeant Wallace on the line. Now. There was a pause. Unit 47, Sergeant Wallace is off duty. Can this wait? Negative. Get him on the phone. It's urgent. Another pause, longer this time. Then a different voice came through, gruff, older, authority in every syllable. This is Wallace. What's the emergency, Mitchell? Sarge, I pulled over a vehicle for slow driving. Ran the plate. Computer says. It says Medal of Honor recipient. Priority status. It's telling me not to proceed. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, what's the plate number? MOH 047. More silence. When Wallace spoke again, his tone had completely changed. Mitchell, listen to me very carefully. You do not write that ticket. You do not cite that man. You apologize, you thank him for his service, and you let him go. Do you understand me? Mitchell swallowed. Sarge, he was going 35 in a 55. He's a hazard. I don't care if he was going backwards. Wallace snapped. That plate is one of 60 in the entire country. 60, Mitchell, is only issued to living Medal of Honor recipients. Do you understand what that means? Mitchell didn't answer. It means that man has done something so far beyond the call of duty that Congress, not the military, personally authorized his recognition. It means he risked his life in a way that most of us can't even comprehend. And you're going to give him a ticket for driving slow? Mitchell felt his face go hot. I didn't know. Now you do. Apologize. Let him go. And next time you see that plate, you salute and move on. The line went dead. Mitchell setting his cruiser, staring at the plate on the truck ahead of him. MOH 047. 60 in the country. 60. He looked down at the citation book in his lap, half filled out, suddenly feeling like the smallest man in the world. Slowly, he tore the page out, folded it, and tucked it into his pocket. Then, he grabbed his hat and walked back to the truck. Frank Coleman was still sitting there, hands on the wheel, patient as stone. Mr. Coleman, Mitchell said, his voice quieter now. I'm not going to cite you today. Frank looked up, a flicker of surprise crossing his weathered face. You're not? No, sir. Mitchell hesitated, then cleared his throat. Sir, I didn't realize who you were. Your plate, it came up in the system. Frank's expression didn't change. He just nodded slowly. I see. Mitchell felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Sir, if you don't mind me asking, why were you driving so slow? Frank looked out at the road ahead, his hands still resting on the wheel. I drove tanks, son. M60A3, Vietnam, 1,970. Maximum speed was about 25 miles per hour on rough terrain. After you spend 2 years moving that slow, watching for mines, watching for ambushes, speed feels dangerous. Even now. He paused, then added quietly, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. 35 feels safe. Mitchell stood there, hat in hand, suddenly aware of how young he was, how little he knew. Sir, I thank you for your service. Frank met his eyes. There was no pride there, no ego, just a tired, quiet dignity. You're welcome, officer. Drive safe. Mitchell nodded, stepped back, and watched as the old pickup truck eased back onto the highway, blinker flashing, moving at a steady 35 miles per hour. As it disappeared into the distance, Mitchell walked back to his cruiser and sat down. He pulled out his phone and opened the search engine. Medal of Honor recipients. Frank Coleman. The first result was a military database entry. He clicked it. Sergeant Major Frank Joseph Coleman, United States Army, 1st Cavalry Division. Medal of Honor. Awarded for actions on the 14th of May 1970, near Khe Sanh, Vietnam. Citation summary. Despite being under heavy enemy fire, Sergeant Coleman single-handedly destroyed 3 enemy bunkers, rescued 4 wounded soldiers, and held a defensive position for 6 hours until reinforcements arrived. His actions saved the lives of 27 men. Mitchell read it twice. 27 men? He looked up at the empty highway where the old truck had disappeared and felt something twist in his chest. He'd almost given that man a ticket. That night, Mitchell couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the way Frank Coleman had sat in that truck, calm, patient, apologetic, no entitlement, no anger, just quiet. The next morning, he went to see Sergeant Wallace in person. Wallace was in his office, a small room cluttered with case files and coffee cups. He looked up when Mitchell knocked. Come in. Mitchell stepped inside, hat in hand. Sarge, I wanted to apologize about yesterday. Wallace leaned back in his chair, studying him. You let him go? Yes, sir. Good. He gestured to a chair. Sit down, Mitchell. Mitchell Saturday. Wallace pulled a worn folder from his desk drawer and slid it across the table. Read this. Inside was a printed article from a military history website. The headline read, The Tank Commander Who Held the Line, The Untold Story of Frank Coleman. Mitchell read. The article detailed the battle that had earned Coleman his medal. His tank platoon had been ambushed. 2 tanks destroyed immediately. Coleman's tank took a direct hit, turret jammed, radio dead, driver killed. But Coleman didn't retreat. He climbed out under fire, rigged explosives from the damaged tank, and used them to destroy enemy positions. Then he carried 4 wounded men one at a time across 200 meters of open ground while machine gun fire tore up the dirt around him. When reinforcements finally arrived 6 hours later, Coleman was still there, holding the position with a rifle he'd taken from a fallen soldier. He'd been shot twice. He didn't stop fighting until the medics physically pulled him away. 27 men lived because of him. Mitchell looked up. He never mentioned any of this. They never do, Wallace said. Real heroes don't talk about it. They just live with it. Mitchell closed the folder slowly. What do I do now? Wallace leaned forward. You learn. You remember. And next time you see someone who looks like they don't belong, you ask yourself, what if they've already done more than I ever will? Mitchell nodded. 2 weeks later, Mitchell was at a local diner on his lunch break when he saw the blue phone 150 inches the parking lot. He hesitated, then walked inside. Frank Coleman sat alone in a corner booth, a cup of coffee in front of him, reading a newspaper. He looked up when Mitchell approached. Officer, he said, nodding. Mr. Coleman, mind if I sit? Frank gestured to the empty seat. Go ahead. Mitchell sat down, suddenly unsure of what to say. Finally, he managed. I read about what you did in Vietnam. Frank folded the newspaper slowly. That was a long time ago. Doesn't make it less important. Frank looked at him for a long moment. Why are you here, son? Mitchell exhaled. Because I almost gave you a ticket and I wanted to say, I'm sorry, not just for that, for not seeing you. Frank's expression softened. You saw an old man driving slow. That's all you needed to see. You were doing your job. Maybe, Mitchell said, but I should have done it better. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Frank said, You know why I drive slow? Mitchell nodded. The tanks. Partly. Frank stared into his coffee. But mostly because I'm in no hurry anymore. I've been places most people can't imagine. Done things I wish I could forget. Now I just want to get home safe. 35 miles per hour does that. He looked up. And if people honk, that's fine. I've heard worse. Mitchell smiled faintly. I won't pull you over again. I appreciate that. They shook hands. Frank's grip was still strong, despite his age. As Mitchell stood to leave, Frank called after him. Officer? Mitchell turned. You're a good cop. Don't let one mistake change that. Mitchell nodded, his throat tight. Thank you, sir. 6 months later, Mitchell was promoted to corporal. During his ceremony, he requested a specific assignment, Veteran Outreach Patrol. He wanted to work with older drivers, help them navigate the roads safely, connect them with resources. His captain approved it without question. And on his first day in the new role, Mitchell drove past a familiar blue F-150, moving steadily in the right lane at 35 miles per hour. This time, he didn't pull it over. He just smiled, tapped his horn twice in respect, and drove on. Because some people had already given enough, and they'd earned the right to take their time getting home. Sergeant Major Frank Joseph Coleman, Medal of Honor recipient, 1st Cavalry Division, Vietnam, the 14th of May, 1970. He saved 27 lives that day. He drives 35 miles per hour now, and that's just fine. Only 60 Medal of Honor license plates exist in the United States. If you see one, show respect.